stable labor relations, and the president today made the acknowledgement. But do you think that's going to go far enough in terms of really allaying the fears, especially of business?
You know, often in government we are accused of not understanding the reality. So I think today you had a frank exposition of the reality of our economic environment, what the world economy is looking like, and the important point that was made is that our future lies in our hands. So we can either decide to continue squabbling amongst ourselves, or as the president said, work together. And if we want 5% growth, then we need to create confidence amongst business. We need to get South African business to invest in South Africa. We need to create a climate where overseas business says this is a good place to invest. And he gave some excellent examples of Unilever, Mercedes, BMW and others who've started investing. And we need to increase the scale of that as well. And I think that's an excellent start, which reinforces the dialogue that he and his ministers have been having with business. And it's a signal to business as well. We hear you. We understand the difficulties that you are talking about, which we share. Now let's get down to work and do something about those difficulties.
Well, he spoke about the need for a common narrative, and but listening to Christo Wiese, I mean, just now he thinks that it wasn't as he needed something that was more dramatic, to use his words, and he didn't seem to get that.
Well, I think it's dramatic enough to say South Africans, we are in economic trouble. We can't grow at around 1% and meet our unemployment challenges, inequality challenges and poverty challenges. It's quite dramatic to say, business, we are opening all sorts of doors for cooperation with you. IPPs on coal and gas. New opportunities to take advantage of the incentives that government actually offers. So I understand where Mr. Wiese comes from, but I think we have a lot in the pipeline that can get him excited in the near future.
Do you think measures like no budgets for dinners, measures like cutting down on delegations on foreign trips also, are those the measures that you think will, at the very least, say to business, we're trying our best? Is that enough?
No, but it's more important for the public to understand that we ourselves as government are willing, and as public servants, are going to be taking cuts ourselves, restraining our expenditure, acknowledging that there is a difficult climate. We need to save money in this climate, and we'll give more indications of that in the budget, and that we care about how public money is spent. I know there's a lot of skepticism in this area. There are huge problems for us to tackle. There's too many people who like brown envelopes in South Africa. But I think that if we get public support, if we get the support of unions and business, we can do more with the limited funds that we have. But also look forward to a brighter day where growth will be higher, there will be more employment, there will be more investment in our economy. But we've got to work hard for that.
But of course, equally important is service delivery.
Yes.
We still need to deliver in spite of whatever austerity measures we may need to put in place as a country. Is service delivery not going to suffer because of austerity?
No. I think the word austerity must disappear from our vocabulary.
At all.
We haven't cut anybody's pension. We haven't raised retirement rates. We haven't said anything about cutting social grants. And what we are quite clear as government is that our commitment to the social wage in South Africa will remain. But there are many other areas where we can do things differently, as the President was saying, and we'll give more details of that on the 24th of February.
Well, speaking of words that perhaps should disappear from our vocabulary, the big R word. Are we anywhere near? Fear continues to rise that, we are actually nearing.
Well, just for your viewers, R equals recession for some. What I think all the numbers at the moment don't indicate that we're heading too far south. That if we do the right things, we can recover beyond 1%. Secondly, at the same time, there are really risky and dangerous signals coming from big economies like the United States. So although they're growing around 2.5%, and their employment numbers look good, many of those are temporary employment numbers. Corporate debt in the United States is quite a serious concern, as it is in other parts of the world as well. And their Federal Reserve chairperson, our equivalent of the Reserve Bank governor, was sending out signals that we're going to go through a very turbulent 2016. So what we can tell the South African public is that we'll keep you on board, we'll inform you about the risk we're facing externally, but we'll do our best to make sure that we get nowhere near the R word as well.
Well, just a couple of issues before I let you go, Minister, on privatization. Are we looking at privatization at all?
Privatization is where you sell assets completely to the private sector. I think what we are looking at, and we'll hopefully make some announcements soon in that regard, is for new opportunities for co-investment. So the President mentioned two. IPPs are essentially investment opportunities, and we've done extremely well on renewable energy, solar and wind in particular in South Africa, and we've got some 200 billion or more that's invested from the private sector in South Africa and externally. Now that's being extended to coal and gas. So those are completely new opportunities for the private sector to come in and invest in the energy area. So we want to look for, even in the infrastructure area, more opportunities for the private sector to come in and co-invest with us. So we'll put in some money, they will put in some money, and get the big infrastructure projects off the ground.
But beyond the new projects, are we talking about, or are we looking at all at existing enterprises, state-owned enterprises?
At this stage, no. But if we look at some of these opportunities, it does mean that outside of these enterprises, new opportunities are opening up, and we must keep our minds open because at the end of the day, our task is to deliver services, and we might have to find some innovative ways of doing that, and partnering with the private sector using different models, but not necessarily getting to privatization.
Lastly, on nuclear, which has been touted as one among many solutions, but perhaps the most expensive one. Are we going to look at maybe putting together, because it's an industry that's fraught with all sorts of allegations and malpractices, and corruption is known as something that is endemic in that particular area. Are we going to look at the issues of affordability and perhaps have a report before we can even begin to put money into it?
Well, sometimes we forget that we do have a nuclear power station in Koeberg. So South Africa has a long history and lots of skills in the nuclear area at Pelindaba as well. Secondly, nuclear has been part of our energy mix since 2010. And thirdly, the President was very clear tonight. We will move on a scale and at a pace that is affordable to us. So that's a massive assurance to the South African public and to ratings agencies and to anybody who thinks we're going to do something fiscally irresponsible, that we will only do those things that we can afford when we can afford them.
Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minister of Finance, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, really talking to some of the issues that came out of President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address. Well,